Imagine you're a detective from another planet, sent to Earth to study the dominant species. You'd observe a lot of strange behaviors: standing upright, cooking food, wearing clothes, building towering cities, and staring at glowing rectangles for hours. But one thing would really throw you off. You'd see these creatures, human beings, watching a movie, and suddenly, salty water starts leaking from their eyes. You'd see them at a wedding, smiling and laughing while more water streams down their faces. You'd see them in an argument, their faces contorted and their cheeks glisten with moisture. The same physiological response for joy, for grief, for frustration, for relief, for a movie that isn't even real, for a memory that happened years ago, for a song that reminds them of someone they lost. Why would evolution, this brutal, efficient, no-nonsense machine that sculpts creatures for survival, create something so bizarre, so seemingly wasteful? Charles Darwin, the father of evolution, looked at emotional tears and called them purposeless. He was genuinely stumped. He wrote about it in his 1872 book, The Expression of the Emotions in Man and Animals, and he could not figure out why we cry. He thought maybe it was just a useless byproduct of something else, like the appendix or male nipples. And here's the thing. Over 150 years later, scientists still don't have a definitive answer, but they have some very compelling theories. Because here's the real mystery, the one that keeps evolutionary biologists up at night. We are the only species on this planet that sheds tears for emotional reasons. Think about that. Not dogs, not chimpanzees, our closest living relatives, not elephants who mourn their dead, not whales who sing haunting songs. None of them leak salty water from their eyes when they're sad. It is uniquely, profoundly human. First, let's get one thing straight. Animals can cry. Your dog's eyes can water. Your cat's eyes might get runny. They have tear ducts, just like we do. And those ducts serve a crucial biological purpose. Biologists divide tears into 3 distinct categories, and understanding these categories is key to understanding just how special emotional tears really are. Basal tears are the lubricating film that constantly coats your eyes. You produce them all day, every day, without even noticing. They keep your corneas moist, protect against infection, and wash away tiny particles of dust. Every animal with eyes has this. They're essential for basic vision. Reflex tears are what happen when you chop an onion or get dust in your eye. They're a physical defense mechanism, a rapid response to wash away irritants, chemicals, or foreign objects. Your eyes flood with fluid to flush out the threat. Again, almost every animal with eyes has this capability. And then there's a third kind, emotional or psychic tears. These are different. These are triggered by your brain's emotional centers, specifically the limbic system and the hypothalamus, not by a chemical reaction to smoke or a physical irritant. These are the tears of sadness, joy, awe, heartbreak, and overwhelming love. They're the product of the human brain, and they're completely unique to our species. Here's what's wild. Only human beings produce this third kind. Your dog doesn't cry when you leave for work. Your cat doesn't well up with tears when you return. Chimpanzees, our evolutionary cousins, don't shed tears from nostalgia. It's just us. And that alone should make you pause and wonder, why? From an evolutionary perspective, crying is a huge problem. Let's travel back in time, about 100,000 years to the African savanna. Picture our ancient ancestors, early Homo sapiens, living in small nomadic bands, surrounded by predators like lions, hyenas, and leopards. Being vulnerable is dangerous. If you're sad and you start sobbing, you're making noise, you're drawing attention to yourself, and you're probably alerting predators to your location. That could get you eaten. And the tears themselves, they blur your vision. They make you less effective at fighting, hunting, or running away. They actively impair your ability to survive in a crisis. So why would evolution select for a trait that makes you weaker in the moment? Darwin, ever the pragmatist, thought maybe crying was just a physical release of tension. He noticed that babies cried to get physical relief from negative emotions, a sort of pressure valve. He also noted that crying often precedes a calm state, suggesting it might have a soothing effect. But he never fully explained why it had to involve tears. Why not just scream or whimper? Other scientists, however, have a much more interesting idea. They think the purpose of crying isn't physiological at all. It's social. And that shift in thinking changes everything. Neuroscientist Robert Provine, a professor at the University of Maryland, dedicated years to studying this question. He called it the tear effect. He conducted a famous experiment where researchers showed people photos of faces expressing sadness, but in some of the photos, the tears were digitally removed. The results were astonishing. When people looked at the tear-free faces, they were confused. They couldn't quite tell what the person was feeling. Was it awe? Puzzlement? Concern? Grief? They guessed wildly and often got it wrong. The absence of tears created ambiguity. But when they saw the face with tears, actual teardrops visible on the cheeks, everyone immediately agreed, this is sadness. This person is in distress. The tears removed all doubt. They provided an unmistakable, crystal-clear signal. Provine concluded that emotional tears are primarily a communication tool. They are a powerful, unambiguous visual cue that broadcasts vulnerability to others. And think about how important that would have been for early humans. When you live in a small tribe of perhaps 50 to 150 people, survival depends entirely on cooperation. You need to know who needs help. You need to know who's injured, who's overwhelmed, and who's about to break down. When someone cries, they're broadcasting, I'm overwhelmed. I can't handle this alone. I need support. It's an instant, honest signal that you can't easily fake. Dutch psychologist Ad Vingerhoots, a leading researcher on crying, suggests that crying is better than screaming. A sob is quieter than a shriek. It portrays you as harmless, not as a threat. It says, don't eat me. I'm vulnerable and I need care. It's a submissive signal that invites comfort rather than aggression. This is especially true for human babies. We are born completely helpless. We can't walk, we can't talk, we can't even hold up our own heads. All we can do is cry. It's the only way to get our parents to feed us, protect us, and comfort us. Baby tears trigger an almost instant caregiving response in adults. The sound of a crying infant actually increases parental stress hormones, making them more attentive. But unlike other animals, we don't grow out of it. We carry this communication tool with us into adulthood. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of our complex social wiring. And the science backs this up. fMRI studies show that seeing a tear-streaked face activates the brain's empathy circuits, specifically the amygdala and the insula. It makes observers more likely to offer support and comfort. In one study, researchers found that people judged individuals with tears as more helpless, more honest, and more trustworthy. Tears disarm us. They make us want to help. So, emotional tears aren't purposeless. They are a social superpower. They are the glue that binds us together. They are a silent, highly effective communication system that says, I need you, and makes others instinctively want to respond. Now, for the million-dollar question, if crying is so useful, why don't other animals do it? If it's such a brilliant social adaptation, why haven't dogs, chimpanzees, or elephants evolved the same ability? There are a few compelling answers, and they all point to the uniqueness of human evolution. First, we walk upright. Our faces are positioned directly in front of others at eye level. We are a highly visual species that relies heavily on facial expressions for communication. A tear rolling down a cheek is much easier to see than a subtle whimper. On an animal that walks on all fours, a tear would just fall to the ground, unnoticed. Second, our faces are more expressive than any other animal on the planet. We have over 40 facial muscles, and we're especially expressive around the eyes. We've evolved to read microexpressions, tiny, fleeting changes in facial muscles that reveal emotion. Tears are just another layer of that expressive system. Other animals, like wolves and bears, rely more on smell and vocalization. They don't need tears to signal distress. Third, and perhaps most importantly, it is a testament to our social complexity. We form strong, lifelong bonds. We rely on our tribe. We build villages, cities, and entire civilizations. Crying strengthens those bonds. It invites others into our emotional world and deepens our relationships. It's the signal that made our ancestors care for each other. It built empathy and trust. There's also a fascinating biochemical angle. Studies show that emotional tears are chemically different from reflex tears. They contain a higher concentration of protein, stress hormones like cortisol, and even natural pain-killing endorphins, the brain's own opioids. Some researchers suggest that crying literally helps remove stress chemicals from the body. The act of crying, combined with the social comfort it brings, is a potent stress reliever. It's cathartic, a way to calm ourselves down after intense emotion. The tears are literally carrying stress hormones out of your body. So, why do we cry? Is Darwin's label of purposeless still valid? Absolutely not. Tears are evidence of our humanity. They're a symbol of our emotional depth and our incredible capacity for connection. They communicate without words, cut through cultural barriers, and tell someone in pain, "I see you. I'm here. You're not alone." Every time you cry, you're engaging in a ritual that goes back to the very beginning of our species. It's an ancient language that still speaks loudly today. You're not weak when you cry. You're human. You're participating in an evolutionary strategy that helped our species survive and thrive against all odds. What do you think? Do you believe crying is a social signal, a way to relieve stress, or both? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more anthropology stories that explain why we are the way we are.